Evan Wright.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast here today, man.
Thank you for having me.
I should say thank you for letting me join you since we're in your office today and using a good amount of your equipment here too. So
just how things worked out. Thank you for asking me. I'm excited to do it.
Always great to do on a Friday.
Definitely.
Evan, you are a very, very interesting guy. You are 22 years old. You're currently in the industry of real estate and you're a property manager. Not only that, but you're like heading a new development of an already successful real estate company in their new property management sector. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Yes.
What is it like to be 22 and take all of that stuff on?
A good question. I think it's really exciting. I think that there are a lot of parts of it that are stressful at times, and I think that I get overwhelmed at other times, frankly, like you said, because I'm 22 and I do have a lot on my plate, but I have a really good team around me that I learned pretty much directly from, and because of them in the property management world especially, we have a lot of good people that are at my disposal to ask questions. Yeah. So it's definitely overwhelming at times and somewhat stressful just knowing that there are a lot of people counting on me, but at the same time, like I said, more than anything, it's exciting, and I know that I'm pretty lucky to be in the spot that I am. So yeah, that's mainly. So
I have a very, very, very broad question here. And so when I used to sell real estate when I was in New York, we were primarily a property management company, but I was on the brokerage end. So I didn't deal with any property management at all.
Gotcha.
What is a property management company? I don't mean like, what do you do in the sense of like managing properties? I think that's fairly self-explanatory, but what do you do, I guess? Do you manage third parties that ultimately do a lot of the maintenance? You mentioned to me maybe 5 minutes ago that you were doing a lot of work with
those are fire extinguishers.
Yeah, the
fire code compliance, things like that today, yeah.
How does it typically work? Like, do you have other teams that do this, or are you doing all this stuff by yourself?
You're pretty, as a property manager, you're pretty much organizing everything. Sometimes there are things that you're going to have to do yourself. Like I said, today I was bringing fire extinguishers to all of our property because we did fire code compliance inspections last week. So if there's a CO detector that needs to be mounted on the wall, I can do that myself, so I'll do that myself. But more than anything, it's organizing a lot of people and a lot of different things. For a maintenance request, we'll get the maintenance request, but then we have to book, say there's a toilet that's backed up. We have to book the plumber to come out and fix that toilet. But then we also have to communicate with the owner and get the owner's approval for that estimate for the job, communicate with the tenant to make sure somebody's to be home, let them inside. And then you got to communicate with the vendor to make sure the job's done correctly, and everything was up to standards. So we're not physically doing all the work, but we're organizing, and we have to know about everything going on at that property.
True.
The first interview that I ever did when I was trying to learn from somebody else who did property management, they basically just said, you're the eyes and ears for that property and you need to know everything going on at all times. So yeah, that's the main thing.
So if something happens in the middle of the night, you get to call?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we probably talked about it earlier when we got coffee the first time, but the worst one I've had was this past Christmas at like 9 p.m. on Christmas. I got a call, and the neighbor for one of our rental properties that was vacant reported that she had water coming into her property, into her townhouse. So we gave her the code and so she could check on our unit, and a pipe had burst in the ceiling and was flooding the property. I listened to it on the phone. It sounded like a waterfall, literally on the phone. Yeah. So I'm the one who took that call. I had to call the emergency services and stuff on Christmas. So that's the bad part about it. That's the bad part about it. Yeah.
And that was like when you guys just started, right? You guys were even newer than you are right now.
Yeah. We were still, we had been doing it for less than a year at that point, really. So definitely new. But like I said, you kind of figure it out along the way.
Yeah. So it's interesting too, because obviously real estate, a property management company fits directly into what you guys do, selling real estate as well at Element here in Apex, North Carolina. How do you, I guess, manage both? I know you're more primarily property management, but it's kind of a great way for you to generate business as an agent as well.
Absolutely. They feed into each other, and that was kind of the whole goal, the whole reason for starting the property management company. As far as balancing the two, kind of like you said, I focus most of my time on property management these days, probably about 90% of my time, but that's just because we're building the company. every renter turns into a buyer one day. So that's a really
Sure.
that's a really big thing. Is being a property manager, we not only work with the tenants in our property, but also all the people inquiring about our properties. Those are real good email addresses for people who eventually will become buyers in the Triangle market. So we're building a database full of contact information for all of those people. And then probably the more self-explanatory one is we are managing the property for owners, right? And all of those owners at some point will want to sell the property. If we had a real estate agent refer that property to them, we'll offer it back to them. And if they don't want it, or if the owner decides that they had a great relationship with us throughout management and they want to sell with us too, then we'll do that. So the goal is for them to feed into each other. But like I said, as far as balancing it, I focus most of my time on property management these days, but I'll never turn down a buyer or a seller.
Have you had, absolutely,
You can't,
dude. Have you had enough data kind of at your disposal to know what your, for lack of a better way of saying, turnover rate for renters who turn into buyers and then are looking for an agent?
Not quite yet. But I think we'll start to get some of those numbers this year, really. I mean, for example, like I said, so we started our first property that we rented, that we marketed and signed the lease for. They moved in about 13 months ago, and they just moved out a month ago. Mm-hmm. They're still renters, so they ended up going to a different apartment complex. But that's the first time that a renter that we met and worked with left one of our properties, right? So as that starts to happen more, then I'll have data as far as what they do. How many of them are still renting, or how many of them buy with somebody else. So
okay. I've met with other property managers and, a couple others really, and that question is always interesting to me because a lot of times they do have their real estate license too. Mm-hmm. They've told me, at least the consensus I've heard is like 25% of everyone who is renting will buy. This is the data I'm getting from them, will buy in that next upcoming year.
Sure. And that's probably a pretty accurate number. It wouldn't surprise me. There are so many factors there. I think that you also have to have a certain amount of volume for that to not be skewed. I think like with a good 100, a group of 100 people, you might be able to pull that out.
You even get 25 deals a year possibly.
Exactly. And that's where the value really comes in, right? Is it can be. Now, I will say our strategy is a little bit different than other property management companies in the sense of we already have a really strong sales side that's existed for 7 years before we even started property management. So a lot of property management companies property manage in order to sell, and that builds that brokerage out. We've already got our sales side down, really. So we're focused on providing good service to the tenants and the owners while we're managing those properties. And if they want to sell with us in the future, then that's just a bonus. But it wasn't designed only to feed into the sales team. It was designed to be a property management company.
True. Yeah. I guess, one of the reasons I like talking sales on the podcast too. Love it. Of course, you're kind of in sales too.
Yeah.
So that's like where my mind goes to, because I'm a mortgage lender. I'm not in real estate, but if I was a real estate agent, I'm like, man, how do I generate leads? A lot of agents, it's a little more difficult to generate leads with, but you guys do a phenomenal job, like you said, on your sales side of just cultivating relationships with people with the stuff like the Easter egg hunt you guys were just doing. And I was just chatting about that with Anne-Marie as well. The stuff that you guys do for your clients is not a lot of other agents do that. Yeah. What they'll do is they're too hyper focused on doing a deal, and then they just forget about that person and don't care about them, and then never get a referral from them again. They kind of just beat the door down and chase people down until they eventually end up buying with them.
Yeah.
Do you think that is? You probably do, but do you think that's a massive mistake that a lot of real estate agents will make?
I do. I don't blame them for it, because I'll say if I didn't, once again, I'm really lucky to be on the team and to have found them in the first place. But I don't blame anybody for doing that, because that's probably what I would have done had I not learned better from my team. Especially sales-oriented people, I think they're very numbers-focused. So they get through that deal and they're ready for the next one, right? And like I said, I don't blame them for that. But one of the things that I value so much from my team, and specifically my mentor, is she really taught me that real estate is all about reputation. It's all about really working with that person so that they have such a good experience. It's like a good song. They want to go tell everybody about how good of an experience they had.
I like that metaphor.
And when you have that good of an experience with somebody, you just don't have to work. You just don't have to work for those leads. Like I said, I'm 22, so the property management company is a big part of my plan to build leads over the years. But it's crazy these first few years watching some of the not older, but older, more mature agents than me. They really don't have to go search for leads because they've done such a good job with their sphere. I mean, literally, it's they can be like, I wonder when I'm going to sell a house this month, and they'll get a lead next week from somebody that they worked with 4 years ago. It's just it ultimately comes back around. So I do think that agents who aren't doing that are making a mistake, but that's how a lot of sales-oriented people are. So yeah.
So you're on social media, obviously.
Yes.
You see a lot of like these gurus, these sales gurus and stuff that will pop up. And
Absolutely.
What do you think of those people?
I hate them. I really hate them.
I hate them too, dude.
It's really difficult seeing. At the end of the day, once again, I credit where credit is due. They do a great job at making content that has shock value and that gets people to stick.
The clicks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, do they have more followers than me and you on social media right now? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
However, will they monetize those million people that they've been given terrible advice for the past 12 months?
And they're all selling
classes
too.
Yeah.
They'll sell like a course, which is just very basic information that, you probably could figure out yourself if you sat down and thought about it for 5 minutes, or if you just Googled it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's this like sales culture, especially with younger people, where it's just like chase people down and they're all playing the numbers game, which the numbers game is, you always have to reach out to more people if you want to do more business.
Yeah.
But they're all just trying to funnel people through this funnel until a certain percentage of them close.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good lesson, for anybody in sales is you got to have a balance of both. You need numbers in there, but you don't want to hit the numbers so hard to where your entire town that you live in knows that hates you and you have a bad reputation among them. You have to be. And that's, once again, the people around me reminded me earlier on, you have to be really careful about your image and your reputation at a young age because it doesn't go away. And so the more people that I or anybody works with that has a good experience, the more that snowball gets bigger. Versus, like you said, a guru who just knocks on every door in the neighborhood. The next time they come to that neighborhood, somebody's going to recognize them and they're not even going to give them the time of day. So, I really hate the gurus. I think they're doing everybody a disservice.
I think
personally.
so too. I think they'll take a lot of good people and make them think that they need to perform in some certain way. Where if they just were themselves, and when I was younger, probably around your age too, I would see like Grant Cardone and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, Grant makes a lot of money. I should probably, if Grant's saying do this, I should probably do something like that. I never could like get myself to operate in that way.
Yeah.
But I always thought like, man, maybe I just don't have it as a salesperson, and it's just completely a false thing.
Yeah, it's not at all accurate. I think I probably saw it on TikTok, honestly, but somebody essentially said the quickest way to make money is to sell to others how to make money, because everybody's trying to make money. So somebody telling you how to make more money, they're selling that at the end of the day. But it's because everybody's buying how to make more money and how to make money quicker. So
you ever see like there are like sponsored ads that come up like, oh, are you trying to make a class to yada yada yada? It's like, why is selling courses? There's a course to sell courses now. It's
exactly.
Like, what is going on? But I did see, it was like 3 days ago, dude. I saw one guy. And it's usually the case where I'll see a new person come through and I'm like, oh, they're cool. And then like a couple months later, I'm like, oh, they're full of crap like the rest of them.
Yeah.
But there's this one guy that I don't think he's full of crap yet. At least the stuff that he's saying kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to say it because one of the things that he says is it's, especially in business and anything in life really, there's two types of games, I guess you could describe it as. One is like finite and the other is infinite.
Sure.
Where in the finite one, you're trying to reach a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And in the infinite one, you're just doing it to do it.
Sure.
Essentially. And like the example he painted, which is like, and I can attest this to myself, and you, in property management and real estate also, dude, the game is just to keep doing real estate.
Yeah.
The game is just to keep being a loan officer.
Yeah.
Like keep doing deals.
Definitely.
Rather than just getting to a certain point, because what happens after that?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I think in everything, consistency and persistence, it all comes back around.
Yeah.
And the more consistent you are and the longer you are consistent for, I really do think that the results become exponential at that point. It's a really good way of looking at it.
Yeah, no, for sure. How do you generate new business then for property management?
So, completely transparently, we haven't done really any marketing for our property management
How many units do you
company
have
so far. So we just got a new deal that'll put us at 35.
35 units.
Yeah, and we were at 17 about a month ago, and
I remember you
6 in November. Yeah, so
dude, so you guys have doubled.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
wow.
we just agreed with somebody that's going to double us. So that's awesome, super exciting. But literally, all 35 of those doors have come from Sphere referrals. Either an agent on this team, an agent who knew Anne Marie in the past and had a good experience with her, or the same with myself or any of the agents on my team. They sold a house to somebody who was looking to rent it out. That person asked them, hey, do you know any property managers? And they sent them our way. And I think out of all of our leads, there have been 2 total that we didn't convert into property management contracts. Mm-hmm. So it's a really strong referral base. That's not the plan forever. We do plan on marketing it, and getting the name out there. But honestly, we don't have time for it right now. We are too busy with the business that we already have.
Are you guys going to hire others, you think?
We're basically hiring right now. We can take this as the announcement. We're hiring. We'll probably list it online in like a week.
Yeah, you put it right on TikTok.
Yeah,
Instagram.
there you go.
I mean, this would be a great company to work for sure. I would say that. What would you guys do to for marketing to generate business for property management?
It's really tough because
Are you on Bigger Pockets?
I'm not.
You know what Bigger Pockets is?
I've heard of it. I don't know a lot about it.
It's like LinkedIn for real estate investors.
Okay.
It's really good. They got forums and stuff. You guys would be great for it because you pop on and start answering a bunch of questions. Your videos.
Sure.
You have a lot of really interesting tidbits of information that people soak up. It's just that in written form, essentially, for the forums on that, and they do have a podcast on there as well and all that stuff. But you'll be able to. People are always if I had a property right now and I'm looking for a property manager. Yeah. If I didn't know you guys,
you'd look on there.
I'm going on Bigger Pockets and I'm going to see what people are saying about that property manager.
Sure. Okay, that's great. That's great to know.
That would be a massive thing for you guys to be on.
Yeah. So I would say that would be a big one. Probably to some degree LinkedIn as well, just because I know LinkedIn a little bit better. But finding property owners is difficult because it's not as easy as you see somebody searching on Zillow in this specific area and you tag them and you put an ad campaign to follow them around on the internet, right? You can find owners who are looking for property managers and we can do direct marketing campaigns targeted at them. But probably the main one is our property management software, Buildium, has kind of an integrated tool that they have a lot of domains around across the internet for property owners looking for property managers, and they monetize those into leads for our company. So we can buy a certain amount of leads from them and potentially translate that into a contract. So we'll probably try some of that. We'll probably try some simple AdWorks campaigns following people in the local area who own or have internet searches relating to the fact that they own investment properties. Maybe some signage around town, but it's really interesting, man. After coming from the referral side of things, where every lead that comes to me is super warm and they already know who I am or who Anne Marie is and they've had a good experience, it's going to be difficult going to the cold type of thing.
They probably shop quite a bit too.
Yeah. Probably so. And we don't have the cheapest management fee in the triangle. I know that for a fact.
Cheap isn't always the best. If it was the case, everyone would eat at McDonald's.
Exactly. So I would say mainly probably some online campaigns to follow people around based off of their previous search history and search engine optimization, because one of our biggest assets is just the location that we're in. The triangle is so sought after right now. So many people are moving here.
Sure.
We've got a great domain, RaleighDurhamRentals.com. So if we invest some money into search engine optimization, I'm confident we'll start popping up a lot more for people's searches.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you guys are you? I think only Element. Well, I don't know if you would be able to find it if you search property management on like you can find the real estate office here on Google Maps, quite obviously. You guys are the only one obviously on this street. So you stick out like a sore thumb essentially, where there's 3 real estate offices right on North Salem Street where they overlap to one another.
Yeah.
So you guys are here clear as day.
Yeah, we've got a great office. This place, we moved in last January. And once again, my partner, but our team leader for the sales side, Anne Marie, she got this office. It's beautiful, and it's right on Center Street. So we don't really have anybody around us. We get great exposure from all of the traffic at 5 p.m. sitting in line, and it's just a prime spot. So we get a lot of attention from that. But our property management company, to put it even more context, like when you type in Element Property Management, Element Realty Group is what comes up, really. We have not separated the identity of the two companies quite yet because they feed into each other so well. A lot of those Element Realty Group leads turn into property management leads, and a lot of those property management leads turn into Realty Group leads. So Element Property Management is a subsidiary of Element Realty Group, but Element Realty Group is still what we put the most emphasis on.
Gotcha.
Because it kind of encompasses everything,
Sure.
right? Realty Group is pretty vague, so...
It is, yeah. But, so are you guys going to be, do you think you'll be doing like events too for existing property owners that you have? Because I know you guys obviously do events for clients, I'm assuming most of them are primary residents, individuals. Do you invite the investors to those things too? Or are you guys thinking like doing other things for specifically?
Sure. We haven't yet. I would think we'll probably invite them to the Realty Group side of things because they are, they're an active client, which is even more, active than a past buyer or seller who we're not working with at that moment. So I'm working with those owners year round. So we'll probably invite them to those. But, as far as meetups among owners and outreach events like that, probably not, just because I think the demographic is a little bit different, which is also what I love about property management, is when you're working with investors, they're very numbers oriented.
Sure.
And not that property management isn't stressful, but for me, working with an investor who's got 18 properties across the country versus working with my brother-in-law and my sister who are using their life savings for this house and they're having a kid in a year, there's a lot on the line with that sale, right? Like, what if the foundation is bad? Like, I've put them in a really bad situation. So
or if the deal blows up and they lose due diligence money or something.
Exactly.
Like, it's when they're not closed yet, obviously, but buying a property around here is very risky.
It's risky. People. It's risky. It's stressful. There are a lot of things to explain, and because of my age, naturally, I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. So I really do think that it's a little bit less stressful on the property management side of things. But either way, I say that to say I don't think they're as interested in the sense of community as our Realty Group's clients are. Yeah. They probably wouldn't want to leave their computer because they're making money. So we'll probably invite them to Realty Group stuff, but it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of our owners don't come, just because it's a different demographic. To stay in touch with our owners, we give them monthly property management reports, and we'll give them quarterly reports on the market. We'll recommend repairs as needed to increase the value of their property, and we really just try to take that role as an advisor and go above and beyond our role as their property manager. And I think that's what they value versus your average buyer and seller values, coming here for a community event like that. I think there's different things that we can do to make them happy.
Yeah, that's true. So talking numbers, I guess, from an investor standpoint, what's typically like the average around here for a property management fee? 8%?
I would say 8% is probably a good average. We're a little bit higher than that, but everything's negotiable. 8.5%, 9% is probably a good average, though.
8.5%, 9%.
That would be my guess.
Is it more, because if you look at an area around this, like around here, where especially if it was like night and day when I used to sell real estate in New York. You'd look at a market like Syracuse versus a market like New York City. Two polar opposite ends of the spectrum.
Definitely.
Where you're looking at speculation and you're looking at cash flow.
Yeah.
Both of those two things. You take that into Wake County down here and you get like both in a diameter of like 15 miles. And then you go a little bit further out, obviously more cash flow and then speculation. It's got to be very difficult. I've run some numbers on. I would like to buy something within the next maybe year. I don't know. I'm not rushing. I would still like to buy a primary residence first, I think. Yeah. But when you run the numbers on some of the stuff around here, it's fairly difficult, you would think, to get a property to cash flow. No.
Oh yeah, no, you're probably not going to. It's almost impossible to be positive, be an honest to God positive cash flow property these days, at least in the Triangle, which I think is a rude awakening for a lot of people, which is unfortunate. the past few years, if you got a 2.5 or even a 3.5% interest rate, you can cash flow that property because that's the cheapest housing has ever been ever. If you have a 4.5 or a 5% interest rate, like you said, the numbers just don't add up. If you're buying a $300,000 property here in the Triangle and you've got a 5% interest rate on that, you could probably come up with that quicker, but I think that's at least an $1,800, $2,000 monthly payment.
You need to put more. You'd obviously need to have a higher down payment, eating up more money that you might be able to put into other properties to expand just to make that thing cash flow.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, factoring in property management, not even necessarily on top of that, but as a part of that, would potentially make it very. If you kept 8%, if you were able to do it by yourself rather than using a property manager, obviously there's a better, probability of it cash flowing. Yeah. If I was buying a house or an investment property, even regardless, I think I would still use a property manager just because I don't necessarily trust myself with taking care of somebody's living space. Their home is on my watch at all times.
Yeah, like you said, it's a big responsibility, right? And that's one of the things that keeps me up at night, but also is I got into real estate for money. Transparently, I wanted something where there was a high ceiling, but the day-to-day of providing a safe and comfortable home for as we grow more and more people to live in, that's what the value really comes from, is doing a good job and it impacts their lives. But kind of like you said, you're going to have to put a good amount down, and then you won't be able to buy as many properties as an investor probably wants to be cash flowing. Most of our property owners these days are not positive cash flowing, at least new ones coming to us.
So they're just eating it, and then when rents go up, they get a little bit more until they reach that threshold?
Yeah, really? That's what they're banking on, is they're investing in this area because property values are going to continue going up. Are they expensive right now? Absolutely. Are they going to keep going up over the next 20 years? No. Yes, they are going to keep going up. They're not going to slow down. And so, one, they're betting on that, the property value itself going up, so they're building their equity. And two, they're betting on rents to go up because rent will continue to go up. And so, if you have a property where it rents for $2,000 a month and you've got a $1,800 mortgage, you're still not positive cash flowing because, like you said, you've got the management fee, and then you've got maintenance, and you've got a bunch of other different fees that come throughout the year. We have a leasing fee that we charge too whenever we lease a property. So they're not positive cash flowing, but they're betting on, as we pay this property off, our payment's going to go down, the value's going to go up, and the rent is going to go up. And I think that separates, not to call them rookie, but young investors and older investors. My older investors have no expectation to have positive cash flow, and they know that, and they're okay with it. And then I have some younger people come to me, and they're broken over the fact that they're not going to be making money every month.
They're probably too, you're talking two very vastly different demographics of people. One who obviously is experienced and knows what they're getting into. Two, they also probably have the assets to sustain a non-cash flowing property for a while. Whereas the newer investors, if this thing doesn't make money, I can't buy it.
Yeah, and that's exactly that. And it's honestly a message that a lot of young investors need to hear is, if you're betting on that extra $200 in positive cash flow a month to get by yourself, you probably don't need to buy a rental property quite yet.
Yeah, true.
Just because stuff comes up. That's a whole nother side of the property management conversation, is what are you going to do when a pipe bursts on Christmas Day and you have to fix that? There's no way around it. You have to fix that. Or what are you going to do when you bought, this is an actual example of something that happened to us last November. So we had an owner buy a property. There was pre-existing water damage that we didn't know about.
Lovely.
And so when we found it, insurance wouldn't cover it because it was pre-existing damage. It was about $25,000 out of pocket for him to repair that property. And he had bought the property maybe 4 or 5 months sooner. So what are you going to do when you just bought this property? You're really stretching every month just to make ends meet, but you've got this rental property that's doing great, right? And now you got $25,000 you have to pay, and it doesn't improve the property at all. It doesn't. It's just getting it back to normal. Most people wouldn't be prepared for that.
No.
If they're betting on that little bit each month to get by, right? So, investing in a rental property is not cheap, unfortunately, and it's not a way to get rich quick or to add to your monthly passive income. It is build your net worth, and it's a long-term play for property value to go up and for rent prices to go up.
That's true. It is obviously a lot of people would probably love to do it. But the barrier to entry for some of them, especially even just for buying homes in general, for a lot of people is just not there. So property investing is like out of the question for them for a long time or forever.
Definitely not forever. Unfortunately, for some people, a little bit of time. But we don't say that to discourage anybody. We want people to understand.
It's a realistic.
Have a realistic view of what it's like, so that you can plan accordingly. Because, like you said, the gurus out there who are telling you to put 3.5% down and buy 5 properties when you're however many years old and you don't have the savings built up, they are really setting yourself up to get into a bad situation. When, say, you got an adjustable rate mortgage on all of those and your rates go up in a few years and you didn't build as much equity as you thought, and all of a sudden you've got way more debt than you do income, or one of those properties wasn't worth anything, and so you're not going to get any rent from that because you sunk all this money in repairs. It's really that's what the gurus do, is they set people up for failure when they tell them the fairy tale way of this is how it's going to work.
They're selling the theoretical to something that you can understand and something that you hope is true, and then they buy your $500 class, and then you're kind of off to the races with that.
Like I said, everybody wants to make more money, so it's easy to sell.
So if someone's looking to get into real estate investing, and maybe they're not horribly pressed for cash, but they want something. Well, I mean, obviously everyone wants something to cash flow. What's the best way for somebody to get into? What's the best way for the average Joe person to get into real estate investing?
Well, I think number one, it's property specific. Some properties can cash flow. Like, for example, there's this one little pocket near NC State University where they are really 3-bedroom townhomes, but they have a basement. And we have a group of owners who bought one of those and renovated it, and they rent the top 3 bedrooms out as a 3-bedroom, and the basement they turned into another apartment, and that's a standalone studio apartment. So they're covering their mortgage on just the top portion, and that basement is $1,200 as a studio and actual cash flow every month. So number one is it's property specific, right? Some properties do have the potential to cash flow if you renovate it and do some of the things needed. So number one, get super deep into the specific property. Number two, I would say hire a good property manager, honestly, because that takes a lot of your stress and your time off the table. And they'll maintain the property. They will find good tenants, qualified tenants, and they'll tell you how much it's worth per month. And then, 3, I would say, just keep saving. Just keep setting yourself up for it, because you have to prepare. It doesn't happen overnight. You've got to have, you need to have a budget for unexpected repairs, and you need to have a good amount to put down as that down payment, so it brings your monthly payment down a little bit and you have a chance to cash flow. I would say a few years of preparing to buy a rental property is a much more realistic way of looking at it than, hey, I'm going to save enough money and buy a house in 6 months.
Yeah, to me, if someone was looking to get into rental or becoming a property investor, I would say you can kind of, in a sense, get the best of both worlds if you're looking to buy something as your primary residence with additional units on top of it, because you can buy a 1 to 4 unit property with an FHA loan, 3.5% down, and you're gonna be pretty much good to go. You're probably not going to cash flow, but your monthly living expenses are going to be far less than what they would be if you found some apartment elsewhere, or even you bought a regular house and just paid the mortgage.
That's a good point. I'm glad you said that, because I wasn't even thinking about it. But if you can house hack, if you can find a real house hack opportunity, I don't know if there's a better situation to get into. I have somebody who's really interested in doing that right now. The problem we're running into is we can't find a duplex for less than $500,000 anywhere around. So it's like, yes, it's great if you can do it, but you've got to find a property that it makes sense for. And I can't find duplexes that aren't falling apart for less than $500,000.
Yeah, around this area, it's like virtually impossible. Yeah, and there's so little inventory in the housing market, there's so insanely little inventory in the housing market, and we're even hamstrung more here now because there's people flooding from New York, Illinois. They're even coming from out west as well. To come here. There's some people that actually came up from Florida, so they went north, which I don't blame them.
Interesting.
Who wants to I wouldn't understand why you'd want to live in Florida if you're not 70 years old. But
that's a fair point. No income tax. That's a big one.
As long as you can maintain your own body temperature, that's a fair one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's extremely, extremely difficult. And then you have all the people who in the past, well, one of the reasons, I think there's a couple of reasons I think that add to it, and are maybe not like the full diagnosis of the inventory issue we're seeing.
Sure.
The two biggest things, I think, and I want to know your take on this as well, not biggest things, but two very interesting things. One, people obviously just refinanced their houses in the past couple of years, and they're not going anywhere.
Yep.
There's that meme going around, or probably has been for a while, of Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street, and he's like, "You're gonna need a wrecking ball to get me out of here." And it's like people who just refinanced or bought their home in the last year. It's like that is true. People are not leaving. They want that 2.5% interest rate until they die.
Yeah. I think that's I think that's a really big contributor to it. You know, the CEO of Allen Tate, Pat Riley, talks about it every time I listen to him talks about it. Boomers have such a big percentage of the homes that could be for sale right now, but they're not leaving and they don't want to leave. My parents are a really good example. They fall into that category and they just refinanced during COVID. I think that they're under 3%. And like you said, they're not leaving. They have no desire to leave. You would have to talk them out of it, or life circumstance would have to change significantly for them to even consider leaving.
For sure.
So I think that's a really big reason that's limiting the inventory. I don't remember who explained it to me, but my biggest understanding as to kind of how we got to where we are now, and you probably know a lot about this too, so correct me if I'm wrong, but when 2008 happened, builders essentially stopped building for 5 to 7 years, it seems like. And were we building too much in 2007 and 2008? Maybe, but barely too much, and they needed to pause it for like 1 year. But they paused building for like 5 years. So now we're playing catch up. We needed to be building from 2010 to 2015, and we didn't at all. So we're playing catch up with a problem that started over 10 years ago. And the way I see it is builders can build as fast as they possibly can. They still won't be able to make up that 5-year gap in 2 or 3 years because it's just widened. So I think that the pause on building after 2008 is probably the main contributor to the housing inventory crisis. And like you said, COVID, all the jobs being created here, and just the, what do they call it, the Bible Belt explosion in general, I think all of that has just made it worse.
Yeah.
And Raleigh is a great example of one of those few markets that kind of had the perfect storm, and there aren't many places better but also worse for first-time homebuyers than Raleigh right now.
Yeah, no,
it's a great spot to be. Please come, but you know you got your work cut out for you to get your offer accepted. But with the right person, you'll find it.
To get into the market is the name of the game, because then you'll be able to experience your positive equity appreciation in a market like this that is going to be definitely beneficial for a lot of people. The second thing, other than people not wanting the boomers, because I can't remember what the stat was the other day that I saw, but boomers have bought a lot more real estate in terms of probably rentals and primary residence as well, a lot more than millennials by a very large margin.
Absolutely.
So when they hit retirement age potentially here in the next 10 years, I'm wondering if we'll see a shift in supply.
Sure.
I don't really necessarily know, but then the fact is, like, where do they go after that?
Yeah.
The second part of it is you have all these massive companies, these funds. BlackRock is like the one that's been in the news very much in the past year, going around and buying up thousands of homes in areas like this, especially in the South, and really in large pockets of the country.
Yeah.
All of these homes are being bought by these funds that are now using single-family homes as an asset class. That has never been done before. This is not something this is extremely, extremely new.
It's brand new. Yeah.
These houses are going into these funds, and it's not like they're just going to list them one by one afterwards. Yeah. If they want to offload them, they're going to package them up in thousands, and they're going to sell them to another fund.
Yeah.
And they're gone. So people are like renting more now because these houses are obviously being bought for renting to these individuals and might never become potentially available to Joe Schmo investor or Joe Schmo, I just want to buy a house to live in it ever again, maybe.
No, that's. I think you're 100% right on that.
That's a scary thought.
It's very scary, and that I think that's what the question is. But that's one. It's one of the biggest contributors to the barriers of entry to the housing market these days. Is it that eats up the inventory, number one, and also it drives up the value, and it makes it even more difficult for first-time young, whatever your category is of a home buyer, is to get inside of one. I think that's a big contributor.
Yeah, and it's odd because they buy them and they're like, not that they're doing it on purpose, but they're essentially pumping up the equity in their own home by homes by buying them, which is what Zillow was doing too last year.
That's exactly what
2 years ago.
And it's borderline criminal.
It's straight market manipulation.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but I think it's somebody has a quote, if you steal on a small scale, then you're a criminal. If you steal on a big scale, then you're God. And, when they do it on that large scale, nobody's going to stop them because they kind of make their own rules. So.
Zillow is the place to go for people looking at homes. And it just didn't make any sense to me that they were doing that. That was a massive... Oh, it's hailing out right now.
Is it? Oh, wow. It is indeed.
It is hailing. My goodness, I'm going to have dents in my car when I leave here.
Why does that happen? It happens on the most random days here in North Carolina. My car is already totaled from hail damage, so I probably am stressed out less than the rest of y'all right now, but that's unfortunate.
Yeah, dude, that is insane. Wow. But we were just talking about these funds. Okay, so here's something that I've been getting more interested in the past couple of years too, and I guess it's an alternative to potentially investing in real estate, but not really. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on REITs?
Man, I don't understand, know, or have any any ability to get involved in REITs right now. So for my sake and for everybody listening, I want to hear how you would describe them and what everybody.
Me?
Yeah, tell me what I or anybody listening should know about REITs.
To my understanding, you invest in them for the dividend income that they provide.
Yeah.
I have a few of them where some of them are monthly, mm-hmm. some of them are quarterly.
Okay.
They're just funds that are publicly traded, or stocks that are publicly traded, and those funds go to the company who will acquire more, and just this.
Gotcha.
It goes into of course, the perpetual growth system that the stock market and everything is like based off of.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of different kinds of REITs. There's residential REITs.
Right.
There are commercial REITs where there's retail strips where they invest in things like their tenants are primarily grocery stores and things. Even if
retail, commercial, office, and residential, I would assume, are the main categories.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just from that explanation alone, I had an idea, and so I was definitely on it. But I think they're great, but all of the new platforms for people to really easily invest in commercial real estate or anything like that, some of those worry me a little bit.
Oh, like Fundrise?
Yeah. Some of those worry me a little bit. I think that real estate investment trusts are proven, and it is a great business plan.
Yeah, it's not crowdfunding, but it seems like a similar business model.
There's got to be some type of similarity between
the two,
because it's like it is the same thing, but the entry isn't the same thing. So I don't know exactly.
It might be the fact that if you are classified as a REIT, because there's certain tax advantages that a REIT gets as the company, but you have to disperse, I believe it's 90% of your net earnings to the investor.
Okay.
So that income has to continually be pushed out to the owner or the shareholders of the REIT.
Sure.
I don't know if that's true for like Fundrise.
I don't know.
I steer clear away from it, dude. If I think it's weird, I'll just stay away.
I think that's a really good. I'm pretty sure it was Warren Buffett's advice, but I think a really good baseline for investing is if you don't understand it, don't invest in it. REITs aren't as difficult to understand, and those are tried and true. But the new Fundrise and anything like that, those I'd give them another 10 years to prove their concept, and then I'll consider it. But yeah.
One thing that REITs definitely don't have on real estate investing, which is probably when you hear people who know their stuff about real estate, is like the biggest thing they'll talk about is taxes.
Yeah.
You can do a lot with real estate in the tax department.
Definitely.
With REITs, you're taxed at your whatever your regular income tax bracket is.
Yeah.
It just adds to your ordinary income.
Yeah.
Your taxable income. But for real estate, it's very, very different where, well, what have you seen? Like, what do people typically, I know, what is the schedule for residential? 27 years they can write off for?
It's either 27 or 29. I think 27 sounds the most right. You know, a lot. It's hilarious what's going on out here.
I don't know if this is like able to be picked up right now.
Yeah, we're gonna see. Either this whole part's gonna get cut out, or we won't notice it at all. But it's okay.
We gotta leave it in.
Yeah, it's all good. 27 years, I think, is right. You know, a lot of owners. Some owners will have conversations with me or us about that because I'm kind of our main property manager right now. Others not as much because taxes, some owners still kind of hold close to their belt. You know, this one property that we manage is one piece of their whole scheme that they're doing. So we haven't gotten super detailed into those conversations with owners yet. But what I can say is, like you said, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, our older owners, the more experienced and people who have been doing real estate investing kind of as a job for a big chunk of their life, the main reason they own that real estate is for the tax benefits. Yeah. Can it provide potentially some passive income? Yes. And does it add to your net worth by just building equity over time? Absolutely. But the way that the U.S. economy is set up, nothing provides the tax advantages that physical real estate does. Yeah. So I think that for a lot of the most mature and sophisticated investors we have, that's the main reason that they got into it, is for the tax advantages.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right, man. We've been going for like 45 minutes here or so now, so nice. I definitely don't want to take up all of your time here today. I do really, really, really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with me here today, and I will certainly, within the next few months, possibly bother you to come on and do another one. But just for a second here, why don't you tell anybody who is listening kind of, you know, what you guys got going on in your business. I know you've talked about your property management and that you're looking, you mentioned that you're looking to hire. Yeah. Let the people know what's going on and let them know how they can find you.
Well, thank you again to Matt for having me on, man. It was a pleasure. I'm glad that you reached out in the first place. You know, for anybody listening, Matt sent me a message. We connected on LinkedIn, I think, first, but you actually sent me an email and followed me on Instagram, and that was a really good example of emails like the only way to reach me these days. So it was a really good example of trying more than one way of reaching somebody, being effective. But I'm glad we were able to connect. Like I said, my name's Evan. You can find me at _Ev Wright on pretty much any social media platform. Keeps getting louder out there, but Element Realty Group is the name of our brokerage. We're with Alan Tate. Element Property Management is the property management side of things. RaleighDurhamRentals.com. You know, we're your classic real estate agents in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, Apex area, and then we also extend to property management. We just started a new company called Element Relocation. So if you're moving to the Triangle or from the Triangle anywhere throughout the country, we have agents with an extreme amount of relocation expertise. So if they're giving you a lump sum, give us a call and we can help coordinate your move, every aspect of it. You know, we're really just here to be people's real estate advisors, whether or not that is you're buying a house for you and your family to live in, you're looking to get into an investment, or you're moving across the country. We want to meet you and we want to advise you throughout all of it. So any way I can help, give me a call.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you guys really are, since I've known you, some of the most wholesome people around here. Also, some of the most wholesome real estate individuals, which is not something to be said for everybody. So you guys really are truly amazing.
I know we appreciate that, man, and you have been great to work with too. I don't think we've gotten anything closed yet, but we sent you a first lead from our team yesterday. Sure. Is that true? So we're really glad that we were able to connect, and we're looking forward to a business relationship together.
I look forward to it with you as well, man.
Cool.
But well, thank you very much for listening to the Weekend Paycheck. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out. That was fun, man.
It was indeed.